Aries, hi, just in time for your Aries March 2020 reading. It's great to see you. Great to see all my subscribers again. Fantastic. Thank you very much for your loyalty, and thank you for those of you who have had personal readings since last month's video. For those of you who don't know that, I have now set some time aside to do personal psychic readings for you. And all you need to do is go into the description box and check out the details as to how we would go ahead and do that. But having said that, let's get things underway, shall we? Because here we come into the fall equinox, or the spring equinox, fall equinox in the southern hemisphere, spring equinox in the northern hemisphere. And I'm going to take 5 tarot cards. I'm also going to take 3 playing cards. Let me know in the comments as to whether you find the use of the playing cards at the end of the tarot section useful. I think you should do. I use these for the psychic readings that I do, and I get very good results from them. And although I'm cognizant that this is a general reading, they have laser-like precision for working out your future when a psychic reading is undertaken. Now, I may use this pen to point out some of the salient features on these tarot cards, which are actually quite beautiful. So let's get things underway, shall we, and see what there is. We have here the 7 of coins. Here, the 10 of cups. Here, the chariot. It's a great card for you, the chariot. Particularly at this time of year, I think you have got great things in store. Now let me see what there is here. The Page of Wands. As usual, I'll get you to come and sit down next to me so we can have a good close look at the cards together while I do the reading for you, so you don't miss out on any of the detail of what may be on the cards. And it'll make sense then when I give the we'll pass on the messages that come through. And there is the Knight of Swords. Now, let's get some of these. I'll take 3 playing cards. What's this one? The 3 of Spades. What else do we have? What about this? The 4 of Clubs. And finally, I'm excited. See what there is, eh? And this one, the Jack of Clubs. Okay, let's put these together. You come and sit down next to me. We'll have a good close look at these cards together while I do the reading for you. All right, Aries, this looks interesting. Let's deal with this card first, shall we? This looks like a very interesting spread for you. Well, what do we have here? The 7 of Coins. Now, the 7 of Coins, what we have are a number of gamblers seated at the table. The winner at the head of the table rejoices in his good fortune. And on the sides are figures resembling really the pages of the various suits of the tarot. The Page of Swords on the lower left is desperate. His bag is empty and he throws in his cards wildly on the table. The Page of Cups across from him says, well, what I'm going to do is I've got confidence in my hand and I'm keeping my cards hidden except for the 3 on the table. He bets 1 gold coin. The Page of Coins up here stares at the coins which are coming down from that of the winner, dropping like rain. He displays his losing card. The Page here, which is a man of color, this Page of Wands, lays down his cards, cursing. But he is a good player, I think, and will probably not suffer badly in his defeat. The 7 coins show from the right clockwise. Here is a child sleeping. Here is a treasure chest full of gold. Here is a soul in purgatory praying for release. This is the chariot of Saturn. Here the full moon. Here a lily. And here is a tree which is blooming with leaves and with fruit. Now, what can we say about this for you today? I think it's important to look at the astrology of this, and I have Saturn in the 3rd decan of Taurus, that 11th to the 20th of May. Saturn is a slow-moving and restrictive planet. It can do a lot of good. It has a bad rap to it a lot of the time, but it sometimes brings in lessons for you that you need to know, that you need to come to grips with in order to move forward. And it's in Taurus, a plodding, fixed earth sign, and together, honestly, one can be forgiven for feeling that with those together, there is something of an idea of stagnation about. Really stagnation is something that I'm feeling. There is, as I say, the slow-moving Saturn and restrictive, and it's a time for you to step back and see the big picture. This could represent a difficult period. Period in your mind, in your material affairs. It's almost as if you put almost everything into something and got no result, and you've just stopped trying. This isn't money. It doesn't need to relate just to money, but it can relate to investment of time, investment of emotion, investment of effort in relationships, whether at work or in your personal life. And you'll kind of just stop trying to move things forward, and the energy is just sitting there in your life. I think that Saturn also partly gives rise to fear, and fear is a big factor in failure or in not moving forward, and certainly in recovering from things in the past, from getting over things in the past. Certainly in a relationship setting, it might well be the case that now is a time for you to, if you have tried everything, to cut your losses and to move forward. There's something else that is worthwhile my saying at this point in relation to this card, and it can sometimes relate to, oh, look, we've stopped trying because we have concerns within ourselves or about our past behavior. But I'll say this to you, and it is, despite what you may believe, you can disappoint people and still be good enough. You can make mistakes and still be capable and talented. You can let people down and still be worthwhile and deserving of love. Everyone has disappointed someone they care about. Everyone messes up, lets people down, makes mistakes, not because we are inadequate or fundamentally inept, but because we are imperfect and fundamentally human. Expecting anything different is just setting yourself up for failure. Nobody is perfect. But I wouldn't be too concerned about the vibes that are coming up to me from that card, because you have such wonderful cards coming through here. And as if to tell you exactly that, let's have a look here at this card, which is the Chariot. The charioteer rides over a landscape that recalls, northern Italy, near Verona, I would say, at the foot of the hills. The square chariot is sheltered by a canopy that is lined with gold stars on a deep blue background. The charioteer has the qualities and zodiacal sign of Aries. He holds a scepter comprising a rod with a sphere and an arrow, And he contains the horses that he's driving with what is a golden ring, a blue crescent on his left shoulder, and a red crescent on his right shoulder represent knowledge of the past and future. They represent knowledge of the past and future. The white horse pulls upward, while the black horse pulls downwards to earth, indicating the two impulses of human nature towards spirituality and sensuality. The charioteer must learn to control the horses so that they can function in harmony. Now, the horses' tails, if you look at this sort of thing here, it looks like a seed because they come together and it looks like they sort of form the image of a winged seed, denoting the potential which is embodied by the chariot. Now, the chariot for you at present is particularly auspicious, I think, because we have here indications of, well, in a nutshell, just indications of victory. So you'll be overcoming these concerns that you had here. It's talking about what I'd say is a new start where things haven't really been going all of your way. You know, you might think there's been something of a barren path for you that you've trod over the last months. Well, this is a turning point in that period. It's a turning point. It's a victory over adversity. And it's about having the courage to act. That is, the courage to act as well as the intention to act. It's all very well to have the intention, but you need the emotional strength to move forward with it. It's also talking about, I think, success over previous negative patterns. I think there might also be a focus on self-discipline for you this month, and possibly even some time for rest and recuperation. But definitely I see you moving towards higher goals, but remaining centered and receptive to the issues in your life. Yeah, very good card there for you. Very good card. Let's see what else there is before we get to these ones later. I'm going to have a look. We've got a knight and we've got a page of wands. Let's have a look at this page, shall we? Hello, page of wands. Here we have a man of colour who I suspect was probably formerly a slave who is now freed. He was a torch bearer. He has the colours of the sun around him. A flower grows from his head and a flower grows from this wand, this staff, which he is putting into this earth, which is trailing the tail of this lion's skin, which he has wrapped around him. This lion's skin is the skin of strength. There's an old Greek myth, that of Hercules, and Hercules wrapped himself in the skin of the Nemean lion who he conquered as one of the first labors of Hercules. And he put the skin of the lion around him to keep him safe. Here we have what looks like a fire in the background about to engulf a jungle full of fruit and vegetation. Really, really interesting picture here. I love the way these things dribble and wander through that black earth. What can we say about this page for you? Well, even though he is somebody who is presented as being a male, I get and look, these court cards can be both male and female, but I'm getting a lot of female energy around here. The princess of the shining flame, the rose of the palace of fire is what I'm getting. I think people who are going to be important to you during this period are Leo, Cancer, and Virgo. They are going to be important to you. It seems to me that it represents a young woman who is energetic, individualistic, brilliant, and daring, expressing her love and her anger with great passion and enthusiasm. I wouldn't be surprised if the person actually has a background which is connected with that of Asia, to tell you the truth. Getting a lot of the feeling of Asia around here, so China, Korea, Vietnam, maybe even as far across as Central Asia and even into West Asia, the Middle East, what have you. But this is a person who is confident, daring, exciting, nonconformist, freedom-loving and ambitious. These are the things that you are going to be. People love her character and energy, and people are going to love your character and energy. You are going to be very attractive to other people during this period, so, well, I won't say make sure you've got a clean pair of underwear, but you know what I mean. You will be attractive to other people. Now, I do have the feeling, though, that the person symbolized by this character and this card is someone who can also be vengeful, temperamental, or unruly, sometimes quite cruel. So be careful how you go about your life. I make no moral judgments on anything, as you know. And this card can also, I think, mean conquering any old fears and patterns of thought that you have. You've brought them to the surface and conquered them. Although it's true, isn't it, that you often learn lessons the hard way. I think that you should just accept that your fears are transformed into love. Now we're going to have a look at another character here. This guy, Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords, well, there he is. He's really on a rampant horse, isn't he? He's wearing peacock feathers in his helmet. Peacock feathers can represent great pride and self-regard. It's also the case that they can, in line with Eastern tradition, also mean, well, high spiritual achievement. The horse has a dragon's form on top of its headgear, a very mean face on the front, and on its leg here. Well, they're the sort of things that you see on the junkyard dog, that spiked collar that you might see on the junkyard dog. I just noticed here this knight is barefooted. He's riding this horse with bare feet, even though there are really quite dangerous stirrups, sharp stirrups coming from the edge of it. On the ground there is a skull, and there is in the far left corner a flower growing up, and there is also a flower growing from the skull that's there. Well, I suppose if we were to say, who is it that this person represents? This looks like a rider who's out of control on top of this horse. I've got to tell you that. I think that the person who may be important to you during this period include Aquarius, maybe even Capricorn. Maybe even a Capricorn there, I'm getting. Now, as this young man, he esoterically is air, and in the suit of swords, he's air. So he's the airy part of air, and it's a picture of the mind. There's lots of air, lots of activity, but not very many plans. And this chariot, and it seems to be riding above this, his horse seems to be riding above the ground here. So he's moving along quite easily. But I think that any particular direction that he's going in is really accidental. And it's sort of suggesting that there's a possibility that he is out of control at the moment. Now, you might want to ask yourself when March comes around to say, is there any area that I'm out of control? Now, this isn't a spell or a curse to say that you are going to be out of control. What this is it's sort of saying that, look, do not be surprised if you can step back and find that in some way you do feel as if you are out of control. The characteristics of this man are whom, a what, whom, maybe Aquarius or a Capricorn, as I say, someone who's quite smart, full of ideas and plans, very clever, but in a sense quite unstable. He can be domineering, elusive, and impressionable is what I'm getting. Yeah, actually really quite impressionable. I think he's got a highly developed intellect. He likes thinking and questioning and philosophizing. Good at creating ideas quickly, but he moves on without developing them. It's as though his intellect really can be draining to those who are unable to keep up to him. He's independent, private, difficult to get to know, I think. And sometimes I suggest that he might well be... lack warmth or empathy. Now, that's certainly not the case with you, but don't let anybody else at this time have cause to think that you lack warmth or empathy. You are, of course, going through quite an important turning point here. This is major arcana, of course. And so you will, I think, be focusing on your goals, because this person here is someone who has surveyed where it is that he wants to go. And the horses, although here they're going up and down, I think he's actually going to bring them under control quite quickly and push forward. And I think that's what you'll be doing. Now, in the context of that, or in the context of that, don't be in the situation where people might think that you're lacking empathy. I think that you'll be independent, quite private. Maybe people will find you difficult to know. Okay. Look, it can also, I think, indicate the necessity for you to sometimes slow down and analyze your thoughts to see if something practical can be gained from them, you know? This guy is capable of putting forward any argument. He's glib and often without any regret or remorse. These elusive and elastic people are of value when they're mastered by someone who's kind of worked them out and can manage them, knows how to harness their energy. But then there's sometimes people who can sometimes say to themselves, but why bother? Life is too short. There's too much maintenance involved in doing these things. They can be fanatics for the latest fads. They can be fanatics for diets or for interests, you know, like music or religion. Can sometimes drink a lot and be unstable. They can often also wander from one sort of a cult to another, always supporting their move with a fanaticism which is actually really just no more than a whim of the moment. Very charming people to have around, but they can be very draining on you and very, very enthusiastic. What I think it's saying to you is, though, you will have enthusiasm, you will have a lot of ideas, you may even find ideas tumbling over each other. Your task is to manage them in a way which says, how do I concentrate the force? Go and pick one of the good ideas that you have and make that the one that you concentrate on and move forward. Because if you spread your energy across a number of areas, as this Knight of Swords does, then you won't get any forward motion. Which brings us then to the Ten of Cups. Well, what can we say about the 10? It looks like 9 cups form golden towers in a town, with the 10th cup forming the entrance from a moat. Now, in the center is a dome, isn't there? Let me have a look at that. Yes, is a dome, really of the main temple, I suppose, with a fountain at its summit. On the gate cup down here, then there are two people kind of happily joined in the sacred bond of marriage. They are like the couple, I think, on the 10 of Cups in the Rider-Waite deck, which I never use, but I do remember it from years ago when I was just learning to do tarot, like 40 years ago. The town is prospering, and various stages of construction can be seen in various places. there is a lot of abundance and prosperity associated with this card. And this prosperity and this feeling of abundance is going to be with you. Now, is there any astrology which has something to bear upon the matter? Well, as always there is, and the astrology is that, you see, I see this card as being the lord of perfected success. It is Mars ruling the third decan of Pisces, about that 9th to the 19th of March, something like that. And Mars, of course, is disruptive, and so it can, well, it can unsettle peaceful Pisces, is what I'm getting here. This can mean, this card, great emotional stability. It can mean your dream home. It can mean a happy family unit. And it can also mean your dreams coming true. You know, there is an angel's energy that's associated with this card, your Bema, and it's one of the 72 names of God. How they're derived, I'll go in at another time. But it substitutes for the name of God in Genesis 1 verse 1, which says, when God began to create heaven and earth. Now, meditating on that name of your Bema and that verse, Genesis 1:1, it can bring you to overcome feelings of doubt or panic, and also overcome any thoughts of dread. Now, these, of course, all add up to your emotional stability, which I think that this card is talking about here for you this month. There's also, I think, a great deal of emotional passion and vitality. But this 10, of course, it's a long way away from the ace, and as a 10, the energy starts to devolve, and in the case of the 10 of cups, it's going to devolve into the ace of swords. So there could also here be a sort of happiness that you have, which is short-lived and which loses its ability to fulfill you. Now, that can relate to stuff that you've bought. So you may have bought some shoes, or you may have bought... Look, it can also mean that you may have got your hair done in a certain way and paid the money thinking, this is great, I'm going to go this and do it. And then when it is done like that, you know, a couple of days later or something, you go, oh, why did I do that? I never should have done it. Well, you just have to wait until the next time and get it changed again. So there's a fleeting happiness which can sometimes dissipate, just as the energy in this 10 of cups is going to dissipate. Now, in a relationship reading, it can mean the loss of pleasure in what the relationship brings. And therefore, you either have to alter the dynamic of the relationship or move away from it. Now, I mean, to give you an example, if, pictorially, if you can see this cup here, if you were to be filling this cup with water, that would be pleasure, emotional pleasure coming in. Well, this cup can only hold so much, and then it doesn't matter how much more you add, it's going to start to spill over the sides. So what you need to do is you either need to replace the cup or enlarge this one. Do you know what I mean? In order to be able to bring in more, if you want to. Otherwise, you might say, I'm not interested in that further thing, or I need to go somewhere else to find a bigger and better cup. It's not as if you're not happy, but this card to me really means full, and I think that it's the case that perhaps you have come to the end of what something has to offer. Let's turn now to these cards and see what they might mean. I'll do them quickly. The 3 of Spades. Well, the 3 of Spades can often mean a worrier, or the card of Tears, which can mean sometimes it can be indecision, fear, or physical stress which is due to work or health. Perhaps there's been a frustrating situation that's been occurring for a period of time. It can mean breaks in relationships. Of course, when you have a personal reading with me, then it depends really where the cards sit in relation to each other and how they form and what the psychic energy is. But it can mean breaks in relationships, which could be business relationships, workplace relationships, as well as friendships. It could sometimes mean a third party breaking into a relationship. And certainly what I would say is that you should be careful in partnerships at this time. Then we have this card here, which is the Four of Clubs. Now, what can I say about the Four? This is really about stability and foundation, progress, security, having enough. It's almost a card of balance and of mental stability. I think the card represents mental satisfaction and stability. But isn't that what we were getting from that Ten of Cups as well? There is stability and satisfaction there. But with here, the stability gives rise to restlessness. Wasn't that also what the Ten of Cups was telling us? It can give rise to restlessness or impulsiveness, passion or creativity. Now, adventure may result from being restless and impulsive, and it's interesting that there may well be somewhere with you at the present, either by yourself or from somebody else, really a fear of commitment. You can read that take that as you may like, a fear of commitment. Then let's have a look at this final guy here, the Jack of Hearts. Well, usually a young male, but could be female. It could be a friend, a family member, or it could be a love interest. Because Jacks are so low in the court hierarchy, they can represent things that are young or fresh. It can also mean an invitation that you are going to receive, or a message, a very pleasant message that you're going to get, or actually the receive of a gift. Now, it can also mean the start of a new relationship, because Jacks are new and young. Yeah, and as I say, you can also get people doing or saying things for you, which actually end up in you having very pleasant feelings. Now, if the Queen of Hearts was around, I might think it was a couple, but it might well represent you, or it could actually represent someone who you are about to meet. It can also, I think, represent a young admirer. Could be a young admirer. So you may be young yourself, or you might be a cougar and have someone young interested in you. Or you may have somebody young in your own sex interested in you, if you are so made. All right, my friend, that is it for you this month. Well, there you go. March underway. Well, let me just say this, is that you were fantastic during that reading, and I really enjoyed providing it to you. I love providing these readings to you each month, and subscribe and become part of the family and belong. And let me just say this, and I want you to remember this always, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Until then, bye for now.